Here we are. We made it.
We made it.
It's the pilot.
We made it.
I'm not a pilot.
We're
Not
piloting. Am I even allowed to talk right now? This is crazy.
You can talk.
Can I talk?
Yeah, we're talking.
The camera's on you, right? Or is it on me?
Robert, you're an interesting dude.
All right. No, I'm not.
I got it. Well, first of all, this is the Dark Figures podcast.
Yeah, yes. Dark what?
Dark Figures.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't see.
And can't spoke right?
No, I can't
It's okay.
spoke right.
It's okay. So,
Jack Daniels.
you and I are both musicians. We
yeah, I pretend to be. Yeah.
You pretend to be.
Yeah.
I fake it. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
right?
I like it. I like it.
So, obviously we want to talk about music. We talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
but I want to hear about your story. Where did you start? Because I mean, I've known you, for the last 2 years?
Yes.
It's been 2.
It's been
about that.
I don't know. It could be 5. It could be 10. It goes really quick.
So for the last handful of years.
Yeah.
So what got you started? Because I know you've been around. You've been in a lot of bands, and what kind of started you on the path of becoming, I guess, a pretty renowned drummer? Because there's lots of people in the community that know about you and know about what you do. And what started all that?
Really, it was my whole family's musicians. So it started actually when I was born, because my dad was always a drummer.
You were born a drummer?
I was born a drummer, yeah. So as soon as I came out, I was born a drummer.
Sticks and
all.
They
just gave me the sticks. Yeah, actually, the doctor had them. So once they cut the cord, they just handed me the sticks to say, hey, you know what? You're going to be a fucking drummer. And I was like,
ta-da.
No, I'm not. I was already rebelling, too, by then, too. I was like, fuck you. I even gave him the finger. I was like, you fucker. And then I just went from there and started touring. Never toured.
No, but really.
No, but so I remember when I was like 5, and my dad was playing drums in our living room, which was like a 5x5 living room. It was really, really big. And he had these guys playing guitar that were like 6'2". They were huge. They could have been basketball players, but they decided to pick up a guitar. Terrible idea, by the way. And he would be playing drums, and he had an open face bass drum with a pillow in it to dampen the sound.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I'd be sleeping. I'd be laying down trying to, just falling asleep in his bass drum while he's like playing Green Menalishi and fucking Aussie songs and a bunch of shit, a bunch of rock songs from the 80s. And I was like, this is cool. It never came to anything. I was like, I didn't start playing until later. We used to go to these parties that my cousins and stuff would throw. Everybody would be invited. It's like a block party type thing, and they'd be jam band type thing.
How old were you at this point?
At this point, I was probably about I was 14, 15.
Okay.
14, 15.
All right.
And
so you're in high school.
I'm in, high school.
Give or take.
Right
around there.
Somewhere around there. And he went to the bathroom, and they were having a break, and I decided, I'm going to jump up there and fucking play because I didn't care. And so I started playing, and then all of a sudden everybody joined in and started playing. I was like, oh, fucking, this is awesome. I could only do, like, AC/DC.
Boom bat.
AC/DC boom pat.
Boom cat. Boom cat. Boom cat. Yeah.
But luckily they were musicians and they knew how to work with that. Or it would have failed really quick and I would have been kicked off the stage. But we did a couple songs and they fucking did it. And everybody was partying and I was like, this is great. And then I remember I was in middle school, right going to high school, and my friend had a band, and he had a drummer and a bass player and a guitar player and him, and they were like, come play, and I was like, all right, I'll come play, and I was like, I have my own kit, so I was like, yeah, I'm a badass, I got my own kit.
Yeah.
I didn't have my own kit, by the way. I had to steal my dad's kit, which he was really appreciative of that. And it had the double bass. So, but it was single bass, but it was double, you know.
Right.
They didn't really have double pedals, really. Well, I didn't have one. They might have had them, but I didn't have one. behind
the technology at that time.
Yeah. It could have been there, but I didn't have it. And so I was playing double bass and not knowing what to do with my hands. And they said, all right, you're hired. And what I didn't know at the time was they already had a drummer, and they ended up kicking him out and putting him on bass. So we had 2 bass players now, a guitar player, a vocalist, and me now. And I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And so we would do this every weekend after school, and we would just jam songs that we liked at the time.
Yeah. Covers and stuff?
Yeah, just covers, or we'll just fucking start jamming around. I was like, play a riff, I'll play to it. Because by ear was kind of my thing. So I would be playing by ear. Mm-hmm. So they would come up with a riff, and we would play it. And so we came up with a few songs, and then going into high school was a totally different thing. So, but for some reason, everybody knew that I was in a band, so I didn't get fucked with too much, which was great, because high school was a scary...
Freshman. Oh, yeah.
A freshman, and you're in Hug High. I don't know. Some of you might not know Hug High, but...
if you're from Reno, you know Hug High. You know them all.
You know how Hug High is. So I was a little worried about... And I was watching Dazed and Confused at the time, and so all the hazing that was on there, I was like, this is how it's going to be. Like... I'm gonna get my ass kicked, and because I'm still not a big guy, and I wasn't a big guy back then, and so I'm in high school. People know I'm playing in a band, so we were just what is it?
Congregating?
Congregating. Why can't I fucking think of that?
I don't know.
Anyway. Yeah,
English is hard. It's all right.
Up at the Burger King up there, and it's a bunch of musicians. Well, at the time I didn't know they were musicians, but we're all hanging out up there. Everybody's bumping music, and we would have boxing matches and stuff. And
typical high school shit.
Typical high school shit. Yeah, that's normal. You're throwing pickles on the mirror and then racing them down, see who would win. That type of shit. Getting kicked out. Actually, we didn't get kicked out.
Touche. Yeah. Touche. Good for you.
They probably knew they're high school kids. Fuck it. Yeah. But some of the people there were also in another band. So they were like, yeah, we're doing these house parties and shit. Mm-hmm. So we're like, we're in a band because we're fucking cool. And then they're like, all right, well, you come play it. So we ended up going and playing at these houses. And for some reason, there was never any adults there.
Well, of course not.
No. Why would there be? It's a bunch of high school kids drinking and partying at, a house. And this house was getting fucking destroyed. Each fucking party, it was just getting destroyed. I mean, our shit fucking getting ripped down. There's pool tables on fire. There's pool. It was like Jackass on steroids just at this house. So there was, and this happened every weekend. And so from there, it just progressed and progressed. We kept playing, and we got mixed in with a bunch of other people. And so it was just word of mouth. And so they'd be like, oh, yeah, I got this drummer, Robert. And so me, I wasn't really stuck to one person or one band. I was like, oh, I'm going to go, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. So I'm jumping around different genres, just all over the place. Yeah. And so, and then it ended up being here. Well, yeah, I guess I could go back a little bit more. So
there's more.
Let's go back a little bit more.
Rewind.
So after the house parties, I got introduced to a guy named Brian Fairweather.
Yeah.
You might know him.
Yep. I played with him, yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually working with him at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, I got this band that you should come play drums with. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll come dink around and see what we can come up with. And played a couple nights with them, and they were like, oh yeah, you should be our drummer. And I was like, all right, yeah, no problem. And that was with Scott.
Okay.
Schlingheid. And so ever since then, really, is Scott's been just kind of dragging me along.
Yeah.
Like,
ever since then, he was
ever
like,
since then, it was like this.
I met this drummer, and this drummer's awesome.
This drummer's
and,
awesome. Hey, how about you go?
He's going to be on all my projects.
Yeah, it's going to be on all of them because I don't want to deal with any other drummer. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. Let's go.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So you've never had any formal training. It's all been, all right,
Yeah.
I had the love for it. I had the ear for it.
Yes.
And it's just been that ever since.
It's just been that ever since. Yeah, just from the ear.
Have you ever thought about saying, all right, now that I'm at that level, is there anything, say, a lesson-wise, as a drummer, is there anything that you haven't learned on your own that maybe you're like, if I were to take, drumming lessons or something that I could get better at? Or do you feel like what you're doing now is you're learning everything as on your own and you feel it's better?
I feel it's a little bit slower, so I'm not learning everything as quick. Like if I would have went to a teacher and had somebody who already knew all that. I mean, I was learning it from my dad.
Yeah.
But my dad, I don't think he ever. Actually, I got to ask him about that. Yeah, no, I don't think he ever had lessons either. He was just because all of my family, like from my dad, my uncles, and everybody were all musicians. So I think it was just coming up with that. And that's where I learned from, which I wish that wasn't the case because I would have actually learned a lot quicker and progressed a lot smoother than it is. Like now it's just taking forever. It's like it'd have been a lot easier with a drum teacher.
Long, drawn-out process.
I'm like, oh, what is that, rudiments? Yeah, I didn't learn that until like 10, 15 years into playing drums. What's a rudiment?
What BPMs are we at?
What's a fucking BPM? I don't know what a BPM is.
So on your path, you it wasn't so much that you say you were, I guess, born in it.
Yes.
But it wasn't like, oh, I saw somebody do it at this one time in my life. So it was pretty early on for you then.
Oh yeah, I think basically right out of the gate.
Yeah.
It was pretty much music was just a part. It was just there. I mean, it was always there. Listening when you're at your own house and you're 2, 3 and you're just listening to live music, it kind of just grows on you and you're like, oh, what the fuck is this? Like, oh, I need to do this. Is this what I do for a living?
Right.
It's like a blacksmith. Somebody's like hammering out some fucking swords and shit.
Right.
Yeah, except all I got was music. I wasn't like in the like furnace or anything fucking hammering out fucking samurai swords or anything.
No blacksmith
cool.
for you.
No, I wish that would have been cool. Maybe I could have incorporated that into the music thing, but no, that wasn't it.
No.
My dad threw tires for a living.
Really?
I guess I could have been a tire changer.
Yeah.
I could have worked at
You could have.
Yeah. Was it Big O Tires? I could have worked at Big O Tires.
Was that around back then?
I don't know. No, it was. It had to have been because he was working there.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad's a whole nother episode where he's my cancer and all that shit.
Yeah.
And parents leaving and shit. Mm-hmm. Fucking great. Good stories.
Good stories.
Good stories.
Yeah, he probably did just throw tires.
And he would tell me like stories like, oh yeah, like how we would get new tires because I guess if there was like a scuff on a tire they had to like discard it and throw it away. So he would go through and he was like, oh, I like those fucking tires, and he would just take a nail and just go just scratch them. Yeah, these are bad, we gotta throw these away, and then just go pick them up. And he was driving like it was an early T-Bird. I remember that. And I'm like, we're in fucking Reno. There's snow like 3 feet. And you're over here driving a rear-wheel drive T-Bird. Yeah. Like, it's... we'll
probably not the best vehicle for this.
We're zigzagging to school and shit. All right.
So were you born and raised in this area in Reno?
I was, born and raised in Reno. Yeah.
It's not very many of us left.
No, there is not.
No.
Yeah. And it's gets less and less each time because of all the Californians. I could say that because I'm on camera. You can't. Suck it.
And if you don't like it, just come here and see for yourself.
No, don't come here, actually. Don't come here.
Please
don't ever
come
here. It's the worst place on earth. I can't wink either.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
what do I use? Both eyes or one?
Yeah, use both.
Oh.
It'd be weird.
No?
Yeah, Asians. I don't think Asians
that's
can
a
wink
myth.
either.
I don't believe that. We're going to have to look this up later. No.
Now, so as a drummer, so you've played in different bands, right? You haven't just been playing metal all the time. Probably mostly, right?
Oh, I would say about 90%.
90% of it, right?
90%. 80-90%. I had a lot of different venues. Like, so I wasn't just stuck on like music. Like, I had other avenues that I was doing too, like photography, skateboarding. So skateboarding was a huge part of my life where I was just doing skateboarding.
Yeah, you went pro.
Yeah,
right?
I went pro for like a week. It was really good.
A week?
Yeah. It was probably longer than that.
Better-
We did
better
tours
than
and
not.
stuff. I had my own signed board and had my name on it.
Yeah.
I thought I was the fucking coolest shit. And then it ended just as quick as it started. Like, yeah, we're doing a tour. And then right after the tour, like, oh, yeah, we're gonna not do this company anymore. I'm like, what about my next board?
Oh.
But no, I got to meet a lot of cool people and do videos with a lot of awesome people. It was just skateboarding. You wouldn't think, but it had a lot of politics to it, and there was a lot of. It was like.
Was it mostly financial or
No. Oh,
was
you
it
mean
just
why the
like
company,
branding? Yeah.
Why the company went?
Yeah.
I think financially and the guy. I don't know why it did what it did. I didn't really go into that with him. I was just like, okay, because I was 25, 26.
Oh, so you weren't young and dumb. You were just dumb.
Yeah, I was just dumb. I mean, I'm still there at the time. I'm still dumb. But yeah, I don't know why the company went kaput. Yeah, meeting a lot of cool people. But like, back to the politics thing. So it was like a Democrat and Republican like battle with skate shops here in town, which was a downer on me because I thought it was just like all right, well, we're all cool, we're all skateboarders, but it wasn't. It didn't end up like that, and I'm like, all right, well, this is fun, but I don't see this lasting very much longer than it is, and so then I got back into music a lot more heavier, and just started playing music more.
Is that like your pocket metal, or is it more of like, if I had a choice, I'd rather play a different genre, or is that?
I would love to play jazz, but you would never see me in a jazz band. If you see me in a jazz band, you should ask if I'm okay.
No, okay.
So anybody out there,
all over the place.
Yeah, check to see if I'm all right, and if not, I probably need to be admitted. But yeah, rock, heavy metal, all the metal and rock kind of genres that's my home base. That's my comfort zone. Yeah, as you would say. But no, I try to venture out as much as I can, as much as I'm able to do. Mm-hmm. So I also was in an indie rock band. I guess you would call it an indie rock band, called Clementine's Night, which did great. I loved the music, and it was kind of a different thing for me. Mm-hmm. But I remember I had Scott, so we were playing the Red Room. It was called the Red Room, and this place was way back in the kind of boonies. Yeah. And Scott came to see one of our shows, and he saw me playing. He's like, "You know what? You don't look too excited to play this type of music." And I'm like, I really am, actually. Yeah, but you
don't seem too thrilled.
Yeah, no, but it's the way the music. It's not all over the place. You're not going crazy on it or anything. It's just it's more in the pocket type. I'm going to work with it. Yeah, just getting that foundation down. And he was like, "You look bored," and I'm like, "Man, that's what you don't know. I'm fucking good." But no, it was great music, and I love fucking playing it. And I wish we would have continued, but everybody went on their own path, which. Yeah. Everybody seems to. Oh, so by the way, I have this thing, and it's the curse of the first album.
Oh yeah.
So the curse of the first album is anybody who records just their first album. It always seems like everybody splits up right after that. And it's like, all right, we got an album, we're fucking done, and then everybody just moves on. Like, we made it, but they don't want to do anything after that. So, but that's just my perspective. I know a lot of people don't have that, but for some reason, it just came with me.
Has that been in your history?
That's my history. One album, and then we're like, yeah, we're done. And that's why probably I'm in so many goddamn stupid, not stupid projects. There's just projects.
Yeah.
And, yeah, fucking God, it's a lot of talking.
I know.
I'm already tired.
Oh, good.
My throat's already dry.
What? Good thing we got plenty of liquids on the table for us.
I know.
To choose from.
By the way, we're sponsored by Jack. No, we're not sponsored by Jack Daniels.
I wish.
But I wish we were.
If Jack Daniels did want to call us, and
by the way,
shout out. We'll give you a shout out,
mm-hmm.
JD. You've been our friend for a while.
For a while, actually.
For a very long time. Or 0 viewers.
0 viewers. Come on, guys. We got one. All right. Well, we got one. He's here, so he's also triple viewing actually because he got the computer and his phone, and he's watching it. So this is great.
Well, here, and it's funny because like I asked that because like I've come from a different background. You know what I mean? Like I grew up as a kid. You know, I consider myself more of a '90s kid. Even though I'm born in the late 80s, I missed out on the 80s. You know what I mean? And so
you're a new metal kid then.
Yeah. You know, when it came to like the 2000 era, it was Slipknot, it was Korn, it was Limp Bizkit even.
Yeah.
Because my big thing was in middle school, I was a big like hip hop fan. I listened to a lot of hip hop. I was listening to Eminem, appreciate you.
Yeah.
I was listening to Eminem. I was listening to the Chronic 01.
Oh yeah,
was like my life.
Oh yeah,
I listened to that album like through and through all the time.
Yeah,
but it was a lot of mainstream like hip hop shit. Like you know, I think at the time, like I think you had bands like or groups that were like Jagged Edge, like they were huge at that time, and. You know, I was really into that stuff. Yeah. And that's because, you know, a lot of my friends were.
Yeah.
And I still had, like, Metallica. Metallica was always in my playlist. Like, I knew a lot of Metallica songs from friends, family. You know, a lot of different people had influences on me. But, and, you know, the alternative from the 90s was still prevalent. You know, I still had, like, Alice in Chains and, you know, Helmet and stuff like that coming in, but oh, that's good. But you know, a lot of that inspiration didn't really sink in until later.
Yeah,
because it wasn't until I want to say it was like 99, 2000.
Yeah,
because I was still one of those little, you know, oh yeah, I listened to Backstreet Boys,
right? Yeah.
Like I did, I listened to that shit.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's what my friends were listening to and everybody else for that matter. Yeah. And it wasn't until I want to say it was like 8th grade. So I was, you know, 13, 14. And a friend of mine introduced me to Korn. And I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, that boom,
right,
you know, and I was like, oh, this is cool, you know. And it's interesting. And then Limp Bizkit was also one of those bands that like introduced me to metal, you know. And you know, it's
a
one
good
of those
transition from rap to rock.
And that and Linkin Park, both of those two were very pivotal in transitioning me from just straight hip hop and the stuff that I was listening to at that time into the metal, you know, that I was listening to. And so those were my introductions, you know, and then it bled into Disturbed and Drowning Pool, you know. And so I was like, all right, yeah, I think I'm starting to get onto the train. And it wasn't until I think my freshman year in high school, I met a buddy, and shout out to my friend Rigo Martinez. Rigo, I remember, you know, he was just one of those guys that was like, hey man, you know, you listen to metal? And I kind of thought about it. I was like, well, yeah. And he's like what? And I was like, oh, you know, Disturbed, Slipknot, Korn. He's like, okay, mainstream. And I'm like, I guess you're right. Yeah.
You listen to the radio a lot,
like, what do you listen to? And he was like, have you ever heard of As I Lay Dying? And I'm like,
ooh,
who the hell is that?
Ooh.
Have you ever heard of 36 Crazy Fists? And I'm like, who the hell is that? You know, and he just kept spouting out names of bands over and over and over. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that was when it was like, dude, you got to come over to my house. I'm going to show you what you've been missing out on. Like, you're listening to a lot of mainstream at this point, and you're missing out on, like, true, like, metal, you know? And I remember the first time he played me As I Lay Dying, and it was I think it was their first album, the Frail Words Collapse. I think that was the first album.
I don't even remember their first album, actually.
Or maybe it was their second. I'd have to look that up. But that was the first album that I heard from them. And I remember listening to it going, that shit's way too heavy for me. Like, woo, I don't know if I can listen to this shit all the time.
Right away.
Right.
Though,
well,
like,
you know, instrumentally, I was like, damn, like these guys are good.
Yeah.
Like, how in the fuck did they do that with their feet?
Yeah,
like, you know, because I at least knew, like, okay, that's a foot pedal, but how in the fuck are they doing it that fast?
Right,
you know?
right.
And so it was one of those, like, okay, I'll ease into it. And then he was like, okay, well, try Avenged Sevenfold. Try Kill Switch Engage, which has a lot of melody, has a lot of, you know, clean vocals, and not all the time, you know, fried vocals, right? And I never thought I was ever going to get into that kind of music.
Yeah.
It was just one of those, like, I don't know.
Right.
Man, that's a little too heavy for me.
Yeah. So what was that switch though?
Man, you know, it had to have been Kill Switch Engage.
Really?
The Jesse Leach.
Yeah.
When Alive or Just Breathing was out, and I don't know how long it had been out, but that was one of the albums that he was like, listen to this one. And I listened to it, and I was just like entranced by it, by the ups, the downs, the heaviness, the melodic, you know, the melodies that were in the choruses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I always was like, man, that takes some talent to do what he's doing vocally. And not only that, but I had the album. I went out and bought it after he showed it to me, and I would read the lyrics. And I'm like, oh, and now I'm really getting deep into the messaging.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, holy shit, this is deeper than what I thought. And it has a lot of meaning. It's not, you know, there's always that stigma, right? With metal of like, it's the devil's music. Yeah. And it's like, if you listen to anything Killswitch has put out, it's always a very positive, uplifting message. And I was like blown away by that. I was like,
that's weird that you say that, because a lot of people go, I can't understand the lyrics.
Right.
And so, because they don't take the time to actually go into the lyrics and find out what they're actually singing about.
Right.
So, so I'm going to guess you did that too, as well as kind of dig into obviously the local, the vocal side of things, and find out what are they talking about. Because it wasn't just the music side. You said you got into the music and you were like, oh yeah, I was feeling the music, but what are they really? Was it like, what are they saying? Like, what are they talking about? Like, it's great and I could feel it, but I want to know what they're actually talking about in the song.
And when you listen to bands like Korn, Disturbed, you know, and it's very clean and it's easy to hear and listen. Yeah. And then, you know, you go to another realm where it's pure like fried vocals, and you're like, okay, I can kind of make out some of them just by pure ear, but now I want to know what they're saying. You know, I've always been like, I've always had this thirst for knowledge. Like, okay, what are they trying to say? What are they trying to get across, you know, when they're playing a song? And so that really put me down this path of like, okay, now I'm understanding what these guys are all about, just by reading the lyrics and hearing the music and just feeling that adrenaline, you know. And I think that's the part about metal that gets me, is that adrenaline you feel like, you know, anybody who works out in the gym will know, man, you put on some music, you're like, 1, 2,
baby
3. Right. You're not listening to Barbie Girl by Aqua in the gym. And if you are, we need to talk. Leave me alone. Yeah, Mike behind the computer is What are you listening to? You're probably Britney Spears. Yeah, 24/7. It's Britney, bitch. Yeah. K-pop. Yeah. No, I did not.
All right, well, continue. Let's see.
But-
You were talking about
Mhm.
Kill Switch kind of got you into the vocal side.
Yeah, and it was funny because, like, my whole life I always wanted to be really good at something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I played different sports, and mostly just to kind of keep myself out of trouble. And so I played baseball, basketball, football. I kept myself busy, and it kind of helped me with my schooling too, because I knew if I had shitty grades, I couldn't play the sports. So.
Differ then.
Right. So, whatever.
Skateboarding, fuck the society.
Hey, that's still a sport.
Yeah, it's individually though. We're in team sports here.
No. And so I was a bit of a jock growing up. I was a jock. Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
That was my thing. I played sports. I kept myself busy. Blah blah blah.
Right.
But I always wanted to be like really good at something, because like I played. Man, I want to say like 8 or 9 years of baseball. Man, I never once, not once in my life, ever hit a home run. No, not once. And I probably had the shittiest batting average. And the only thing I had going for me as a kid was I was fast. Cool, right? And so I stole a lot, and I played outfield. I could cover a lot of space. But that, I knew that it was doing a lot of other things for me, like keeping me on my academics. It was keeping me involved with, social interaction, playing a team sport. Right. But I always, I grew up as a kid always wanting to learn to play an instrument. That was always something on the table. Like, man, if I could just learn guitar, if I could just learn drums, or I always had this piqued interest of wanting to be an actual musician.
So what was the first instrument that you picked up, though?
That was...
I'm not talking about like elementary school. I picked up the violin and I fucking...
yeah.
Like, I'm talking about...
Hey, Jingle Bells was pretty hard to play on the trombone, let me just tell you, all right? I played the trombone, yeah. I had too fat of lips to play the trumpet. That's what I wanted to do. No, I mean, that was the thing, is like, I never, I always had that interest of like, okay, I want to play an instrument, but it didn't go very far. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, hey Mom, I'd like a guitar for Christmas. And she was like, no. And I'm like, okay. And that was it. And that was the conversation. Or like, I'd like to play drums. I want a drum kit for Christmas.
Like, absolutely not.
She was like, that shit's too loud.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay. And that was it. And it was over. There was no conversation. There was no like, okay, I'm going to keep drilling her until she gets me that kit or that guitar or whatever, right? It just...
Because you didn't care at that
No,
point. I'll take anything right now at this moment. I'll play
And
the
so-
harp. I'll play the cowbell.
Yeah, so I never had that like seeking, and I don't know. It just was one of those like, that would be nice, but I just never acted on the pursuing.
Right.
And it wasn't until my freshman, sophomore year, and it was somewhere in that ballpark. And I remember I was driving around with my friend Reno, and we were driving in what we called the Green Machine. It was his Ford Tracer, and
yeah.
we drove around in this thing all the time. And hey, let's go for let's see if there's any parties, And we drive around in the car for hours, and maybe we'd find something to go do, or maybe we didn't. But we always had music in there, and we always had. And back then, it was the tape deck with the cord that came out for the head jack,
you put it
and
in
we
your CD
plugged
player.
it into the Walkman.
Yep.
Right. That was the way we did
The
things.
anti-skip, which always skipped.
Oh God, one of us had to hold it.
Yeah, you hit a speed bump.
Or here comes that pothole.
Yeah.
But I remember we were listening to Alive or Just Breathing by Killswitch.
Yeah.
And I remember him going, man, I would kill to be able to do vocals like him.
Yeah.
To be able to sing as good as he does, to do those highs, to do those
Right.
lows.
Yep.
Man, I would kill to learn how to do that. And I told him, I was like, well, I mean, singing kind of goes without saying. If you can't carry a tune, you can't carry a melody.
Yeah.
You know, that's not everybody knows how to sing. So that kind of goes without saying. But the screaming, that can be hard.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You fucking do it then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. I got that, I had that
confidence.
cockiness. Like, all right, let's do it. Ready? And I turned up the stereo and I was like, all right, ready? And I'm waiting for this part I knew. And I just screamed like a little 8-year-old girl, dude.
I hope
just
it sounded
so hard.
just like that,
and it was
too.
just like everything I had. It was just like,
Yeah.
and it was not.
Nailed it.
It was nailed it. Put that
Hashtag
up there
nailed
on the board. No, and he was laughing. I was laughing so fucking hard. He pulled the car over,
Yeah,
and we just started laughing and just belly laughing, dude. And we just got it out. Whew. But psychologically, that pissed me off. I was like, "What the fuck?
All right.
What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Like, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
You know?" And it was that point that I was like, "Fuck that. This can't be that hard."
All right.
And ever since then, it was, okay, I'm going to learn how to do it. And I went home and I put on Drowning Pool Bodies. I'd put on Kill Switch Engage, Fixation on the Darkness. And I was putting on these songs that I knew, and I was trying to mimic what they were doing. That was my first initial, like, okay, this is how I'm going to learn it.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of vocalists out there will tell you, they just, not a lot of them did the vocal lessons side of it.
Yeah.
They just were like, I just wanted to do this. And so that was my first introduction to it.
Yeah. I bet that was really a good FU to your parents, too, because you're not going to give me an instrument?
Oh,
Guess
my
what?
God.
I'm going to scream.
I feel so fucking bad for my mom, my sisters, and everybody who lived in that fucking house.
I bet she was like, I wish I would have got him the guitar. I wish I would have got him the guitar.
Maybe.
I wouldn't have gotten an amp, just the guitar. Though.
Because that was my life.
Yeah.
That was my life. Every day.
Yeah.
I got home from school.
Yeah.
I'd get my homework done.
Right.
And then I'd blare my stereo. And I inherited my stereo from my mom, which was like that 80s style.
80s, like huge speakers.
Yeah, it was
like,
in this glass wooden case. And it had the record on top. It had the CD player, the tape deck, the dual.
Yeah.
Right? So you could record.
The only thing it's
play.
missing is the A-track. Yeah.
Yeah, it was missing
I had
the
the
A-track.
same exact fucking stereo, too.
And it had the, 5-foot tall speakers. I used the stands, but yeah, I plugged those in, and man, I just would blare my shit, and I would just try to match it. And that was my goal. That was like, if I can match what they're doing, I could do what I do, And but the other side of it was, I think the part that really led me down the path of, maybe vocals is the fun, cool fucking thing to do was I just wanted to be cool.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So high school around then, right?
Well, so in reality, what really triggered for me to want to be a musician, was 8th grade year. It was the last day of school.
Yeah.
And they used to do a talent show. And I remember a couple buddies of mine that I went to school with, they played in a band. And, I had no clue that they played music together. Right? I knew they were musically inclined.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, Kevin plays the bass. And, Isaac is a pretty good vocalist. Or whatever it was, right? Yeah. But I didn't know that they played together. And last day of school, 8th grade year, they played Seven Nation Army.
Oh, no.
By the White Stripes.
Really?
It was a simplistic, easy song.
Yeah.
But I remember just sitting there going, fuck yeah. Just banging my head with everybody and just getting riled up and excited.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, that's what I want to do. I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy that people go, that was badass. You guys perform. That was cool, right? And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be cool, And it's simplistic, but it's an easy avenue to really delve into what you really want to do. And if it's an image thing, whatever it may be. And for me, it was I just wanted to be cool. I wanted to be good at something.
Yeah.
And so, and it took a while.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to be like, fuck that. I want to learn how to scream. I want to learn how to growl. I want to do all that.
Right.
And so it just took me forever though.
Yeah.
And I finally got there and I said, all right, I'm dedicating every minute I have.
All right.
And that's what I did every single fucking day after school, man.
Yeah.
Props to my fucking mom and my sisters for fucking sitting there going, here he comes again.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is a trip because I had to,
you know, just going to fucking town and not knowing what I was doing. Just fuck it. Let's see what happens. But YouTube kind of guided me on the whole diaphragm. I'm like, what the fuck is your diaphragm?
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? You, you doctor
So,
here?
Yeah, and
Dr. Drew, all right, diaphragm, yeah, all right.
That's somewhere in here, right?
Well, we're talking about the chest area here or throat? I don't know.
So, and that was the starting point. It was, okay, and there we go. But it was just so, it's crazy to me to think that my music interest now is more on the really heavy breakdown, melodic, and, you know, metal that I listen to now from where I was.
Yeah.
You know, it just blows my mind that I was listening to Getting Jiggy With It. Yeah. And, you know, like Soul for Real.
Yeah,
I was like, you know, and then My Candy Girl.
Yeah.
You know, I was listening to that shit all the time.
That's funny that you brought that up because that's something I didn't bring in when you asked me is because that was me. I had the baggy pants with the most wanted shirt, huge, and listening to all the rap and stuff and dealing with lowriders and all that.
Right.
I did all that. And then all of a sudden my buddy who was living down the street from me introduced me to it was Marilyn Manson. So Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar, was the one that switched me into playing rock and metal because I was like, dude, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then I started watching the guy. I was like, dude, this guy is
trippy.
He's not anything that's around here at all. And I was used to, you know, the 80s fucking metal and rock and hair metal and stuff. And this guy was like, fuck that. I'm going to do a corset and wear fucking G-strings.
I'm going to wear fishnets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just how angry he was, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm this fucking angry.
Yeah.
I know all about this. And so it dove me into all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was, most of the time it was just that 70s rock, 80s rock. I was like, all right, yeah, that's cool, whatever. And then Marilyn Manson, and I was like, all right, now I'm dark. Yeah. So I went from wearing like the most all wanted black T-shirt, big baggy pants to nothing but black, just solid black. And I was like, yeah, I'm mean. And I just didn't talk to anybody. And that was my start. Yeah, but so I'm right there with you. But the thing that separates me from you is that team sports thing. I never got into the team sports. It was the skateboarding that escaped me from all that other stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can do this by myself. I don't need anybody else. I would take buses into town to go to these skate parks and just ride them and then just take the bus back. And you had that whole family like thing. And my dad was like, all I had was my dad. And it was more like, yeah, go ahead, do whatever the fuck you want. And I was like, oh, yeah. All right, what am I going to do? I don't know what the fuck. What's life?
Well, that was the thing. Because, like, for me personally, like, my dad wasn't like always present. Yeah. You know, he was in and out of jail. Yeah. So it was mostly my mom really driving me to do whatever it is that I wanted to do.
Right. Except guitar and drums.
Well, I mean, it was also given the situation, right? Because, you know, growing up, my mom worked 2-3 jobs all the time. I just felt like it was constant. Yeah, you know, she's a badass.
Yeah, she sounds like a fucking trooper for sure.
Dude, she was. And so when it came to like financially, like she always made sure that we had good Christmases, good birthdays and things like that. But when it came to like, you know, something like buying a guitar, right? Or an amp that would come with that, because she knew that, you know? And so it was like, yeah, maybe not this year. And instead of me going, okay, next year, you know what I mean? And continuing to pique my interest in wanting to learn it. Right. She was just like, oh, you just asked and then it was gone. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about that. So maybe that was, and mostly it was on my end of it. But and I remember there was also a point in time where, you know, we ended up having to move in with my grandparents. Yeah. And that was, I remember going, hey, I'd like a drum set for Christmas. And we were living with them. Yeah. And she was like,
Ooh, yeah. Because she's dealing with her parents and everything, too.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom and dad ain't going like that. So,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
that's too loud. I went,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That was it. You
Yeah.
know, it was over.
But she should have seen that, like, oh, all right. I think it was a dedication thing. Like, is he really dedicated to this? Because I understand, like, especially having kids now. Like,
Yeah.
is he really dedicated to this? Should I, invest in this? Because really, a guitar and everything, that's an investment.
Yeah.
Like, you're investing quite a bit of money.
No, absolutely. And any musician will know that anything that you pick up is a huge investment.
Yeah.
It's not just, all right, I'm buying a guitar and then that's it.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
you're buying an amp, you're buying pedals, you're buying
Right.
chords, you're buying strings, you're
Yeah.
buying, and it's constant, you
Yeah.
know. And so for me, it was, I just wanted to look cool, and I think she kind of knew that.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Well, I think that's what she was worried about.
Yeah.
Is it just like,
And
I want to look cool thing, or is it just actually
Right,
dedication and a path you want to actually, pursue?
right. And it wasn't like with vocal, what I was doing vocally. It wasn't like, oh, I can tell now that this is what you really want to do. And, if you need anything, let me know. It was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna keep trying to work on it. I want to keep trying to get better.
Right.
And it wasn't until later that I finally was like, all right, I'm gonna invest some money. And I was working, and I bought my first PA system, and I bought it out of my own pocket. And
Was this before or after you started writing? Because I want to get into the writing side of things too. Like, when did you start to write? Was it before or after? If it's after, we can wait.
no, writing came sooner. Writing was definitely something that I always loved to do. I love stories.
Uh-huh.
I love the way stories are written. And it's funny because, like, I didn't read a whole lot of books growing up.
Really?
Like, I didn't really pique an interest on, like, I want to read F. Scott Fitzgerald
Right,
and The
right,
Great
yeah.
Gatsby. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, all right, I want to pursue literature.
Right.
But I always had this, passion for wanting to tell stories. And anybody in my family will tell you, like, here we go. He's got to tell a story. It's going to take an hour, but he's got to tell us every detail.
Right,
And
yeah.
we're going to paint ourselves a picture in our head about how it goes. And that was kind of my, like, okay. I always wanted to be a storyteller. So writing kind of came to me as a creative process. And I always loved writing good stories that have this impactful message or just like this hidden meaning. And what's funny is a lot of my inspiration for writing has come from hip hop. It really did. Because if you listen to a lot of people like Tupac, you listen to
Right.
DMX, you
Yeah,
listen to these, and there was a lot of underground hip hop artists like, Hieroglyphics,
Right.
which were guys that were
Yes.
like
Yeah.
deep underground hip hop, but
Yeah.
they were authentic and they were
Del.
brilliant.
Yeah.
They were writing
Yeah.
magicians. They knew how to write some really good material.
Right.
And it was just like blew my mind. And I was like, man, that's what I want to do, So when I was in high school, and I didn't even join my first band until 2010,
Oh, okay.
2009, maybe.
Right.
It was somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 2007. So all through high school, I always wanted to be a vocalist, but just never really acted upon it until after the fact. But writing, man, I took a creative writing class.
Uh-huh.
And one of my favorite classes I ever took because I could really bring out the storyteller that I had inside me. And I could just write about anything. Or we had a topic and it was like, okay, break this down. Like really delve into the depths of the literature and what you're seeing and themes and this and that. And so I just really clung on to that, And man, my creative writing teacher, Mr. Reed, that man put up with a lot of shit from me.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go? What high school did you
Oh,
go
I
to?
went to Worcester High.
So it was Worcester?
Worcester High.
Oh, okay.
I was a Worcester High. My aunt went there, and I was zoned for it, and all my friends were going there. It was like perfect, you know. But it was funny because I grew up as an athlete, right?
Yeah, right.
I was a jock. I was a, baseball, football,
Right.
basketball, and I was doing that because all my friends were.
So you were just still doing that in high school?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just from basically 5th, 6th grade all the way through high school.
Really?
That's all I did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my senior year that I finally was like, no, I'm going to focus on myself individually. I'm going to do what I want to do. And so the hardest part for me was, okay, what path do I take?
Right.
Is it music?
Right.
Is it writing?
Right.
Because I really love to write.
Yeah.
I really do. I love telling a good story, but sometimes it's one of those things where it's like I get writer's block. And I think every writer does.
Yeah, everybody.
But when you cling on to something and you just go, and you can't stop.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm addicted to that feeling of look what I created after the fact.
Right.
Right. But it took me a minute. And
Yeah.
then after I took that creative writing class, I think that's where I really became into my own of like, okay, I want to create a story, but not be straightforward. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be a little more complex. I want to have a little more in depth, but hip hop deals with a lot of double entendres.
Yeah.
Deals with like, I'm saying this word, but really I'm kind of segueing into this and that's what and that was one thing that hip hop did for me was like wordplay, right? Okay. And I love that.
Yeah.
And so I just took that and brought it into writing metal.
Yeah.
When I did. And so, it just kind of went hand in hand.
So your first band was it right out of senior year or? No.
Well,
how'd you get involved with a band, like, and especially out of high school, because it's not like high school and all of grade school. Like you're running, you meet a lot of people and you go, you're conversating with them. Like,
right.
You play music? Oh, cool. Let's try something.
I think for me personally, it was because like I said, like I saw those guys playing when I was in 8th grade, and I was like, those guys are cool. I wanted that, right?
Right.
But I didn't want to come out as a vocalist without having any kind of like artillery. Like I needed to know my shit, or
right.
at least seem like I did before
right.
I even did anything.
So you're not one of those guys who's just like, I'm just gonna go in and see what the fuck happens here.
No, I sat back on it,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay. And then finally, a friend of mine was like, my friend Steve was like, hey, man, you're doing pretty good, man. Like, you should be doing this. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I remember trying out for the first time my junior year in high school for this band that went to our high school. And it was a
What was
three-piece
the band?
Cynical. And you guys
Really?
played for them. Yeah. And I went to high school with these guys.
Okay.
And shout outs to Drew, Bobo, all those guys. You guys, fuck, man. It was funny because like I used to watch them play in the quad.
Yeah.
I used to watch them play at like assemblies and shit like that. And
Right.
I'm like, man, that'd be fucking cool to be that guy up there, And I remember I was like, man, they're a 3-piece, and Aunt Drew, who's a guitar player, he was also
Really
doing
cool
the vocals.
Dude. Yeah.
Really cool fucking
Really cool dude.
All those guys are fucking cool.
Yeah, all of them,
yeah. I was like, well, maybe Drew needs a break. Playing guitar the way he does, maybe he could use a vocalist,
Right.
And Steve was like, I don't know. I know those guys. I have classes with them. Let me talk to them. And I was like,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, do it.
I was like, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to tell you no.
Right, yeah.
So he talked to him, and I remember he goes, hey, man, I talked to him, and they're down to have you come over and try out. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So he told me
Then
the
your
day.
adrenaline's going, fuck yeah.
I'm like psyched the fuck
Right,
out
yeah.
all week.
Yeah.
And
Not sleeping.
Yeah, that Saturday comes around, and he's like, I'll pick you up. We'll go to the house, and we'll do this, right? And I'm like, cool. So we get there, and it's in the Midtown Reno, in Drew's basement.
Yeah.
We go to the backyard, and there's like 20 fucking people from
you're
high
like,
school.
straight to a show.
And I'm like, what are all these people doing here?
Right, yeah.
What the fuck?
I
I thought this was a tryout,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And he's like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, whatever, right? And we're talking with people like, hey, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I just
right.
came to meet Drew. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
And we just were talking, bullshitting. And I remember in the backyard, they was finally like, all right, we're going in, you know, everybody. And everybody just funneled into the basement.
Yeah.
And everybody's, you know, smoking, drinking. We're having a good time. And they get up there and they start, you know, they pick up their instruments and they plug in and they start tuning and everything. And I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. So I'm thinking it wasn't so much of a tryout as it was like a come and hear us and then tell me what you think. You know, that's what I'm thinking at this point.
Right,
like, all right, I'll just enjoy the show. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching them play. And they played the first song. They had a good time. Everybody was enjoying it, having, you know, getting crazy. And then as soon as the song ends, they're like, all right, where the fuck is Ryan? And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, right.
This is my fucking introduction?
Yeah.
And they're like, get your ass up here. And I
shit.
go up there. And
you've never been on stage yet.
No, this is my first fucking time.
That is straight to the fire.
I'm
Get
shaking like a motherfucker, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to say.
Yeah.
I don't know any of their
So they didn't
shit.
give you lyrics or anything?
Nothing.
Oh,
just
fuck yeah.
nothing. And Drew hands me the bike, and he goes, hey, man, just do your thing, you know, and we're going to play some music, you know, just do what you do. I was like, okay. So I'm put on the spot. I have to fucking freestyle.
Yeah.
Some form of lyrics as much as I can.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, okay. And they start playing, and I kind of give it a couple minutes or a couple, you know, I felt like fucking minutes, but it was probably like 20 seconds. And I'm like, all right, I got the rhythm. I got the melody. And I just went for it.
Yeah.
And just belted every high, every low, every mid, everything I had in my arsenal. Just went for it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you the fucking lyric to save my life.
I got it right here. This is what you did. You did ball with the ball, the bang, diggy, 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 set the boogie, set up. That's what
my
you
name
did.
is Kid.
Yeah.
No,
and they're like, this is the greatest thing ever.
No. and that's how we became the Prince Bat.
Right. No, clearly that's not the way it went. No, obviously, it was pretty fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny because, like, we played the song, we got through it, and then, after a while, I just kind of, like, blacked out. I just was going, and I was a machine at that point. So I got through it, and I think there was a point, I don't know if it was, like, the next song or, like, two later, but they were like, hey, man, let's hear some highs. I'm like, okay. And I remember they were like, this one's called the Carnival of Freaks, just to kind of give me a reference point. I'm like,
you're like, I know exactly what this is.
Okay, I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm gonna do a circus theme, right? And I'm just like thinking of everything I could think of, and I'm just, you know, I'm up there, dude. I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs.
So were your vocals like? Did you have them dialed in by this time?
My highs at this point were the first thing I started with.
Yeah.
So my highs were the thing that I was like, okay, I was proficient at.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable with.
Okay.
My lows, though, I just didn't know how to get low.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but they wanted the highs, so you were like, good.
So I was like,
good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. But now I need to think of something. You know, if anybody is listening in that room of what I'm saying, then all right, here we go, you know. And so I just went for it, and I had a great time, and I couldn't tell you what I said, how I went through that scheme, but I just remember coming out of it, and then they were like, all right, we're going to play a cover. And I'm like, cover? What are you going to play? And they're like, Four Horsemen. Do you know what?
Fuck yeah.
By the Metallica.
Fuck yeah.
I did not know a single lyric except for fucking
I shun you.
The horsemen are drawing nearer.
Right, yeah.
Let the steeds they ride.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah. That's all right. You just run that through.
That was it. That's all I knew. And I'm like, I don't know anything else. And they're like, it's cool, man. I got you. And I'm like, cool. And I just did backings for Drew the whole time.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's perfect.
And it was fun. And that was my.
Did they play it as better as we did, or as good as we did?
That's hard to say. They put in a lot of years. I was like their main cover song.
Yeah, but we know that
like
song.
They
know that song
for a 3-piece band. Man, they did pretty.
No, we're live.
But
that's all right.
we did pretty good. I gotta say,
it.
we did pretty good.
All right, okay.
But fuck, man, yeah, that was my.
I would actually love to hear that. I
first-
wish there was a fucking taping of that.
Man, I mean, that was back. Shit, that was 2005. 2006.
That's all right. They had the
I think
the
I was still
shoulder cam at that
Dude,
time.
yeah,
I know
was
that.
rocking a green screen flip phone at that point.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I don't think I had a
I don't
camera
think they had
phone.
cameras on there. Dude, it's gone so fast. I was like, yeah, I'm holding this big old fucking Canyon. And I'm like, just
fuck.
film things. And then all of a sudden, it's like, everybody has cameras on their phones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, all right. Well.
But that was my introduction to playing live. And
Dude,
it
I
was
would
fun.
have. I'm gonna tell you right now, I would have froze up in like 2 seconds.
Fuck,
That's
man.
not me. I'm definitely not a front man.
No. Well, I mean, it's
It's not working at all.
so.
It's just one camera.
Yeah, but
All right. Well, we're good.
yeah.
Do we need to get closer?
Seamlessly, we're gonna transition even better because I'm about to piss my pants.
I'm about to piss my fucking pants.
I'm so
waiting-
glad.
Oh, dude, we are fucking killing this shit. We could easily do
Oh,
2
easily.
hours. No joke. We could do
All
2
right.
hours.
Well, I'm
of
gonna go
fucking-
piss.
Let's run the hour. We'll call it a wrap. Let's call it a wrap. That's
All right.
well, we're not even halfway through fucking Ryan's story here. I know he's not even. I'll give the out. All right, so yeah, we'll pick this up again later because we haven't finished Ryan's story. So we're gonna pick that up later. We will talk to you guys later. All right, bye.